My name is Ryan Shelton, and I have to admit I have never seen Kern and Hammerstein's Showboat. I was expecting kind of an old-fashioned musical that I was like, oh, like historically, but I thought it was really a powerful American story. Gave a really good insight to the life and times along the Mississippi River, as well as being kind of exposed to that really early form of the American musical. I saw the version on Broadway HD by San Francisco Opera Company. It really is a good introduction to this classic masterpiece, and I think you should check it out. I have some things that I didn't care for as much, some things that kind of fell in the middle, and some things that really stood out to me. One thing that I didn't care for as much was some of the overacting. Now, there are places in the Showboat during the actual show where they do some of that old style kind of physical acting, come to the center of the footlights and powerfully deliver it. But the character of Captain Andy, portrayed by Bill Irwin, he was all kind of elbows and knees, look at me. And he kind of became distracting. He was kind of like mugging for a camera that wasn't there. I've seen him in other things where that worked, but it didn't work as much. I felt like it was distracting. A lot of the characters were playing real people that would slip into these characters when needed, and he didn't ever seem to slip back out of this kind of crazy character. And the first two numbers where the chorus sang, I had trouble understanding the words. And I found myself, thinking, oh, this is Showboat, it's famous, I want to catch the lyrics. I'm really curious to see if my friends that are into opera music or that kind of operatic singing would have better luck understanding it. It's what I'm not exposed to as much. That comes up with Shakespeare. I can hear Shakespeare language, and sometimes like, well, I didn't understand that. So I'm curious to see if that's part of my trouble with kind of catching some of the lyrics. It didn't distract too much, and then most of the other numbers I had no trouble with. I had some things that I kind of found in the middle. I watch a lot of the dancing. I'm a choreographer myself. I look at a lot of shapes, and I do youth and kids putting them together. My daughter's a very good choreographer. I've worked with great choreographers through lots of musicals that I've directed. And this dancing was energetic, it was well-timed, it was spaced, they used the stage well. But they did this one move all the time where they kind of waved their hands like this. It didn't fit very well. A lot of times it was repeated a lot, and it just became really distracting. I started watching it almost comically. But it was still good dancing. Also, the character of Gaylord Ravenel, portrayed by Michael Todd Simpson, he seemed too stoic and not so much a gambler or a roughneck for me when I started. And then he kind of leaves the marriage for no reason. I would have liked maybe a song or something to really show what he was wrestling with or why he left. And part of that is the older story and how we see villains today and how those characters relate. So I know that's part of it. But I just kind of struggle with him as this, leaving her and then being a gambler. We didn't see enough of that side of him. We saw the kind of suave, debonair part of him. But again, he was a magnetic character and had a large presence, like not just tall, but just filled the stage, and you could see why Nola was attracted to him. The stage was pretty impressive, good execution of the set changes really quick. It didn't do much to add to the story in places. The Showboat maybe a little bit. One time it was really distracting though. They were singing a song and this giant wall comes in, and I remember watching the wall and kind of missing what was going on. Lighting was very simple, well done, just showed a little bit of the motion, but really just made sure we could see a very full stage of cast. We got to see him. Heidi Stober was playing an 18-year-old Nola to begin with, and I didn't catch that quite at first. She's a lot older than that, and she played it well, but it took me a while to kind of catch what age she was supposed to be. And so I thought that a lot of the show, progressed through ages pretty quickly and didn't do enough. It did the signs for New Year's to give you the time change, but the story didn't always give you a reason for kind of moving it along. However, Heidi Stober's voice really had a lot of emotion and heart, even though she was singing this huge operatic music and this power, but the direction was very staid and she was very simple. So it kind of let her star be the voice, and I kind of liked that. It kind of set her up to be this, focal point and this just power, raw power and emotion, but this big singing. I had three really big standouts. The power and size of the San Francisco Opera chorus. It was absolutely amazing. They had this rousing harmony and kind of filled the whole stage with this vibrance and power. And then this just kind of spread of the harmony at the end of songs. But they just added a nice, even tranquil emotion at times, kind of laid around and kind of fitting that life. You know, sometimes we're exciting, we're performing, but there's a lot of people just working and not having an easy life, and I love that really big balance. The comedy duo of Ellie and Frank I thought was underused a little bit until the second act, but I really liked their patriotic number in the lounge at New Year's Eve. It gave a lot of energy to the part of the story that I thought had stalled a little bit, like at the end. It just kind of was dragging a little bit, and I really kicked it up. But what I really like is I love vaudeville and those variety acts, and I thought that gave a really good taste of that individual honed act that those two have together that people expected, and that gave a lot of life to that. My standout was Old Man River. I applauded after the first section of singing. By myself watching it on video, I'm applauding. And then the chorus joins in it. It just gets this powerful number, and we can just feel the emotion through the crowd, and even some different ones. And so I clapped again. I'm thinking, well, that's it. And then the character Joe, played by Morris Robinson, he starts singing again, and just kicked up the emotion a notch, and the power, and sort of the despair, and then hope, and love, just all these different things you could feel pouring out of it, and really got the biggest applause yet. So that was my biggest standout moment. You can certainly see why it's famous. I started watching this production as an academic exercise. How can you be a fan of musical theater and not have seen Showboat? That's what I was thinking. But however, by the middle of the first act, I was into the story. I was involved. I wanted to see what happened. I was moved by the power of this operatic singing. Not something that I always love on stage, but it was so powerful, and it was full, and the stage was full, but it carried a lot of emotion. So that's why I really recommend you go see San Francisco Opera's production of Showboat.